And in this video, we're looking at casting in ranges of variables, more specifically focusing on casting and how we can use that to temporarily treat a variable of one value or one data type as a different data type. So hello again. This is Dr. Mitchell from Orlando, Florida. It's good to have you back. In this video, we're going to be focusing on learning about the two casting operators, ints and doubles, and how we can use those to create temporary values. We'll also look at how casting a double to an int causes those decimal values to be, the numbers after the decimal point to be dropped. And we'll also look at how ints are often automatically widened to doubles in certain types of expressions, and how we can use casting operators to round instead of completely losing everything after the decimal point. So, what is casting? Casting we can use to temporarily treat a variable that is of one data type as a different data type. So if I created a int variable, for example, that for one particular expression I need to have treated as a double, then I can use a casting operator to do so. Or if I had a double variable that I needed to temporarily treat as an int in a particular expression, then I can use that casting operator to accomplish that as well. So let's look at some examples of how that works. So in this particular situation, I'm working with different ways to write the expression 6 divided by 4, and how the ways that I write that is going to change the result that I get. So in that first line, if I just do 6 divided by 4, these are both int values, so I'm going to wind up with an int result. In the next line, I have 6.0 divided by 4. So since one of those values is a double value, Java is going to assume that you must want a double result. So it's going to automatically widen the int value of 4, so that way I wind up with the result of 1.5 as a double. Same thing occurs on the next line, where I have 6 divided by 4.0. Even though 6 is an int, 4.0 is a double. So again, Java is going to automatically widen the value of 6 to treat it as a double, so that way I wind up with the double result of 1.5. But I could also achieve that altogether by using the casting operator of double in parentheses and putting that with the expression of 6 divided by 4. So since 6 and 4 are both ints, that's fine. Since I casted that expression as a double, I'll still wind up with the double result of 1.5. I also use those casting operators to round. So as we were looking at previously, when I did a value, an int value divided by an int value, it's going to wind up with an int and drop the decimal, and it's not going to round it. But sometimes I need it to be rounded. So in this particular example, where I have double number equals 11.0 divided by 4, I'll wind up with the value of a decimal value, but if I'm trying to then turn around and use that value as an int, it's going to drop everything after the decimal point instead of rounding it. But maybe depending on that situation, I might need it rounded. So in that first expression, first line of this code, I'm going to create this number variable to store a double result of 11.0 divided by 4. I'm then going to use it in this expression, int number plus 0.5, so that the result of whatever number is of 11.0 divided by 4, I'm going to add 0.5 to that, and then cast that as an int. Okay, so and then I'll store that result in the variable rounded number. So let's see how this impacts our output. So on the next line, I end up outputting 11.0 divided by 4, so I can see what value I wind up with, which in this example, I wind up with 2.75. If I try to cast that number as an int, I lose the decimal part, right? So now it's just 2. But I really actually want that value to be rounded. So when I did the rounding by adding 0.5 to it and then casting that result as an int, I wound up with 3, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted that result rounded in this particular situation. I can do the same thing with negative numbers. So again, if I'm doing double number equals 11.0 divided by 4, I'm going to wind up with that same value that I had earlier of 2.75. I'm then going to convert it to a negative number. So I have double negative number equals negative number. So now I have negative 2.75 there. But then I can cast that with the int casting operator after I subtract 0.5 to it. So that way I can round that number and get my rounded result. So if I do 11.0 divided by 4 rounded and print that out, I wind up with -3 like I wanted, a rounded number. So let's practice with some examples. So my first example, I have 2.5 times 3.0. That by itself would give me a double result, but I don't want that. So if I cast that as an int, then I'll wind up with the whole number of 7. If I have 25 divided by 4, those are both int values, but if I cast that using the casting operator of double, then I'll wind up with the decimal value from that result. I can also put that casting operator within the expression. It doesn't have to just be at the beginning. So if I do 6 divided by and then double 5, then the 5 is now what's casted as the double, which of course would then widen the 6 to be treated like a double and give me a decimal result of 1.2. And then if I do 12 divided by 5 and cast that as an int, I'm still going to wind up with an int result regardless, right? I'm going to wind up with a 2, but 12 and 5 were both ints anyways, so I would have wound up with an int result regardless. Let's look at some more examples. So here I want to round this number. So I have 6.75 plus 0.05 or 0.5 because I want to round this number up. So when I do the 6.75 plus 0.5 and then cast that result as an int so I can drop that decimal point, then I get the rounded number of 7. If I do 12.59 plus 0.5 and then cast that result as an int, then I'll get the integer result of 13. And again, working with negative numbers, if I do negative 8.63 minus 0.5 and cast that result as an int, then after I subtract 0.5 from negative 8.63 and cast that with the int operator, I'll get -9. And finally, if I have int and then negative 10.8 minus 0.5. So I'll subtract 0.5 from negative 10.8 so I can push that number up a little and then cast that result as an int, which will give me my int rounded result of -11. So at the end of this, what we should take away is that we have 2 casting operators that we can use here. We can use an int or a double, so that way we can temporarily treat different data types as different types. I can cast a double to an int, so that way I can drop the decimal points or anything after the decimal point. If I use int values in any kind of expression that has a double in it already, those ints will automatically be widened or cast to double values, so I get the double result. And I can use casting operators to perform rounding by adding 0.5 or subtracting 0.5 and then casting that result as an int. So thanks. See you again soon.